All right. So the common narrative when you talk to gun controllers abroad or gun controllers in the U.S. is that you will hear that the U.S. somehow leads the world in homicides or is a dangerous country because of our gun laws, yada, 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 yada. All right. Well, I'm going to show a few maps to illustrate why this isn't true, why this is a false talking point. And first one is obviously going to be a map of gun ownership, worldwide. Because, again, the common narrative among gun controllers is more guns, more crime. So let's take a look at this map right quick. All right, so obviously from this map, we can see that the U.S. leads the world in gun ownership. We're number one, Therefore, by that logic, the more guns equals more crime. I mean, our streets must be running red with blood right now. I don't see how anybody survives in the U.S. by that logic, considering the fact that, according to the gun controllers, more guns equals more crime. Meanwhile, you see our closest competitor, Yemen, they're out there. They probably not as dangerous as us, right? Though they're a pretty dangerous country, but not obviously as dangerous as us because we got more guns. And then you see some countries in Europe like Finland, Norway. You got some countries in the central. I think Germany is one of them. They've got a moderate rate of gun ownership, according to this. Canada, I mean, they've got a decent gun ownership rate. So, I mean, obviously those countries must be dangerous as well by the gun controllers' logic. Whereas you look at Brazil and Russia, and to a lesser extent Mexico. I mean, obviously these countries are incredibly safe and nothing bad ever happens there, especially not homicides, right? So by that logic, I mean, countries like Brazil, Colombia, Russia, to a lesser the Philippines, and to a lesser extent maybe Mexico should be a lot more dangerous. But again, with the next map I'm going to show you, they're probably they're not. Let's put it that way. But again, on to the video. All right, so we can obviously tell that the U.S. leads the world in gun ownership rate, or at least lawful gun ownership for civilians. Hell, I mean, we got things that you wouldn't be able to buy in other countries, just by walking into an FFL and filling out a 4473. I don't know of any other country that allow you to buy one of these things just by walking into an FFL and filling out a 4473. I know a lot of countries where this type of rifle here, semi-automatic carbine, is 100% illegal, but here in the U.S., in most states, you can walk into a gun store, fill out your 4473 form. As long as you're not a prohibited person, generally walk out the same day with one of these things, with the ammo and extra magazines, and with other cool little accessories like a rail system, tack light, EOTech. It's just how depends on how much money you have and how much stuff your local FFL has in stock. So yeah, we have a pretty unique freedom in the U.S. and of course, by that logic, obviously, we must have a lot of murders in this country, right? At least according to the gun controllers. But let me show you this next map here. I really want to drive this home. Okay, so please explain to me what happened here. Well, both Yemen and the U.S. have comparable homicide rates. Both of them are the world leaders in firearm ownership, while they don't have the lowest homicide rates in the world. They certainly don't have the highest either, you know. And what happened here with Colombia? I mean, Colombia was one of those countries in the green on gun ownership. They had a low gun ownership rate. Same for Brazil, Russia. What happened there? And a lot of these countries in Africa. Shoot, what happened there? And some of these Southeast Asian countries, India. I mean, they're all in the green for private firearm ownership, which means they had pretty low rates. So, please explain that situation to me, how that happened. I mean, shoot. I mean, I know Canada doesn't have the rate of firearm ownership that we do, but shoot, they definitely had a higher rate than Colombia and Brazil. So what happened there? I mean, come on, gun controllers, explain this one to me. More guns equals more crime. I mean, shoot, in Canada, I mean, you get a license and you can purchase a handgun or even a semi-automatic rifle. But yet you can't do the same in places like Brazil and shit, and Russia. So, I mean, why do they have a lower homicide rate than those countries? Come on. Come on. Come on, guys. You could say correlation doesn't equal causation, which is what I would say to you guys if you had a correlation, but you don't even have a correlation. So, another funny thing that the gun controllers like to do is throw suicides in there. And they argue that gun control will reduce suicides, even if nothing else is done. Again, let me show you another map here on world suicide rates, and you guys can determine that one for yourselves. Okay, so it looks like the U.S. and Canada, well, they have roughly about the same suicide rate. Again, you would think with the U.S. having the highest rate of gun ownership in the world that it would dwarf these other countries if, well, gun control prevented suicide. Not having guns around prevented suicide. But as you can tell, I mean, Russia dwarfs us, Kazakhstan dwarfs us, India dwarfs us, China dwarfs us, Japan dwarfs us. I mean, these are all countries in the green, And as you can also tell that there are a lot of countries that don't quite have the same suicide rate we do, and again, there might not be entirely accurate data in a lot of these gray countries, such as in Africa and stuff like that. But nonetheless, there is no correlation with the overall suicide rate and gun ownership. Correlation just isn't there. All right, so again, moving on. Now, some people, gun controllers, are going to sit there and claim that it's unfair of me to compare, say, the U.S. to a nation such as Brazil or Colombia or Mexico. They're going to say that, well, these nations have their own unique problems, their own unique issues, and that that's really unfair and whatnot. Well, here's the thing. How fair is it, by that logic, to compare the U.S., a nation with a very heterogeneous culture? And what I mean by that is that there is really a lot of different cultures within the U.S. There are American cultures that aren't necessarily my culture, and you know, my culture is not necessarily every other American's culture. You know, we're a large, vast country with large borders. Um, we have several different cultures within this country. Um, we have our own unique problems as well. Uh, you know, so how fair is it to compare a country like that to, say, a country with a largely homogenous culture? You know, it's island states such as Japan to the U.S. in that regards. How is that any different? How is it any different to compare the U.S. to a country like the UK, which the UK has a very homogenous culture when compared to the U.S., you know, and it's also an island state. I got to know that. I mean, and why does Russia get left out of this? Everyone else noticed the fact that Russia had a very low rate of private firearm ownership, but yet, or at least legal private firearm ownership, yet a high rate of homicides. Anyone else notice that one? Same way with Colombia. Very low legal firearm ownership rate, but a very high rate of homicides. You know, they never want to mention those countries in this, obviously, because it shows that they don't even have a correlation. But I'm going to break this down even further. And I'm going to focus primarily on the U.S. internally now. Just to show you how much of a correlation you don't have. Okay, so from looking at this map, we can obviously tell Wyoming, Montana, Idaho, Utah, the Dakotas, Arkansas, West Virginia, Mississippi, and all that. I mean, when it comes to rates of gun ownership, they're the higher ones in the nation. And I know Texas is a big gun owning state, but like the U.S., Texas in and of itself is a very diverse state, you know, whereas the U.S. is also a very diverse country with a lot of different cultures and a lot of different political mindsets. Texas is no different. It might come as a shock to some to find out that in Texas we have places that, when it comes to political philosophy and their mindset on guns, they're more like Californians than they are Texans. These would be places like Austin, you know, Dallas, Laredo, not Laredo, El Paso, you know, Houston. You know, they've got a lot of blue areas in Texas, unfortunately, when it comes to well, I'm talking obviously Democrats, you know, and the more leftist mindset. But as you can tell, and same goes with Florida too. I mean, you know, Florida's got some areas that are really blue and really red, you know, but just going by this map alone, by this logic here with the rates of gun ownership, I mean, all these states with high rates of gun ownership, Wyoming, Montana, Idaho, Utah, the Dakotas, Arkansas, and all that, should have a higher rate of homicides. But I pull up a map showing the homicide rates per state, or showing where all the homicides are occurring. You know, it's going to be a different story. You know, again, we know the gun controller narrative is more guns, more crime. This is not true by any stretch. And let me show you this map right here. All right. So, as you can tell, obviously, just by basic crime rate map I pulled off the internet, California seems to lead the nation in crime. They're heralded by the gun controllers constantly as a modern model state for what our gun law should be. Gun controllers consider California a shining example. And by the way, why isn't Montana, Idaho, Wyoming, and the Dakotas, why aren't they a hot spot for crime like California is, And admittedly, Texas and Louisiana are on the higher end of crime rates. But again, with Texas is a pretty unique state. And if I was to show you a map of the crime by county, the crime in Texas would be restricted to a few counties. Just the same with Louisiana. The bulk of the crime coming out of Louisiana happens in either Baton Rouge or New Orleans. But again, I don't currently have any maps to show you by county in each state. So on that note, I'm going to continue on my next portion of this video. So again, with that map alone, it shows that more gun ownership does not necessarily equal more crime. So there you have it. Now, we can go down, and this map I like a little bit better, what I'm about to show you, because it shows it more in the localized areas, which is a point I wanted to get at even more. But let's see this map right here. Now, I like this map much better. And the reason why is because it goes and shows more locally, right? You see, it shows where the homicides are occurring, in the localities. Still, you don't see much in the Dakotas, Montana, Wyoming, Idaho. Where you do see it happening is like the northeastern seaboard, places like New York City, Baltimore. You see some in Detroit. You see some in Chicago. New Orleans is really lit up, as opposed to the rest of the state. And in Texas, and I said earlier in the video that in Texas, it's a diverse state culturally and politically as well. And you can see in the Houston area, the DFW area, and the Austin area, which all three of those areas have some subcultures that are more in line with the subcultures you see in Oakland or Compton. Either that or they're more in line with the cultures you'll see in places like San Francisco than they are in line with the rest of the state. And these people aren't the type to legally own a firearm anyway, if they do own a firearm. Again, this whole idea that it's gun culture that's causing all this in the U.S. is complete bunk. It really is. And this map illustrates this quite well. All right, and this next map I want to show you here, it's something I'm hesitant to do, but I'm going to do it anyway, just mainly because the map isn't too detailed. If the state has a mass shooting in it, it's in red. If it doesn't, it's in blue. But at the end of the day, I do want to show you this. Even though mass shootings are a statistical 0 probability, even in the U.S., despite what gun controllers will tell you, I wanted to show this map anyway, just to give you an idea on this real quick. Okay, and obviously, if the state's in red, it means it's had a mass shooting, at least one. Could be 1, could have been 10. It doesn't specify. If it's blue, there's absolutely zero mass shootings that have happened in that state. But what this state shows you is that gun laws don't do anything to stop it. I mean, you take Texas, obviously, I can think of maybe 3 mass shootings that have happened in Texas. But California had a bunch more, despite its gun laws. Florida, there's only 1 mass shooting that comes to mind there. Colorado, only 1 mass shooting comes to mind. Arizona, there's only 1 mass shooting that comes to mind there. New York, there few, 1 or 2 of them. Obviously Connecticut's on the list. We all remember Newtown. But as you can tell, I mean, Wyoming, Utah, Idaho, Montana, and all them, they haven't had mass shootings. The Dakotas haven't had mass shootings. So, I mean, again, there's really no correlation between gun laws and mass shootings. Unless you want to talk about where they occur, and that's in gun-free zones. I'm going to show you another map here real quick. Okay, so on this map, it shows you, now this map I got from a site, I guess is Against Campus Carry. But if you look at the other map, states with mass shooting incidences, you'll notice that Utah and Idaho and Tennessee haven't had mass shootings, but they allow for campus carry, which a lot of these other states that are on this map don't allow for campus carry. Texas just recently adopted their campus carry. In fact, they adopted it after some of their mass shootings. In fact, I think all of our mass shootings have happened. They've adopted campus carry after the fact. Colorado, another state that allows for campus carry. I'm not sure when they adopted it. But again, Colorado, there's only 2 mass shootings that come to mind there with me real quick, and that's that's Aurora and Columbine. But again, Colorado's adopted campus carry. So as you can tell right there, there's no real correlation between prohibiting guns and stopping mass shootings, again, unless you actually see where all these mass shootings happen by location, and they all tend to be, with the exception of 2 since 1950, gun-free zones. Places where people aren't legally allowed to carry their guns if they're a private citizen, permit or no permit. So again, we're not seeing any evidence that lack of gun ownership, strict gun laws, or anything like that actually do anything to solve any problems. Now, this next map I saw caught my eye. And this map is from a site called Geographic Travels. The About Me section on it, I guess the person was an employee with National Geographic. But he put out a map rating the states on the health of their gun cultures. Which states have the healthiest gun cultures, which states don't. So let's take a look at this map, and I want to chime my 2 cents in with this map up. I really like this map. I mean, to be honest with you, I really do. I really like that somebody was able to put up an assessment like that and put it in an image. I'm not exactly sure the methodology this person used to determine the health and deadliness of the gun culture, but this person's actually thought about the actual mentality of the gun culture in each of these particular areas. And what this person has found is a general rule of thumb. And I know there are exceptions, obviously Arizona, Florida, Louisiana, and New Mexico are all in red. They don't have the same gun law. Same for Nevada. They don't have the same gun laws. They fucking Illinois, New York, Delaware, Massachusetts, and California do. But it's a good general rule of thumb. I mean, it could be like how they have Texas and the orange. And that's obviously because with Texas, I mean, we have some really blue areas of Texas, and we have, for the most part, in the rest of Texas, we have some down to earth people. But nonetheless, it shows that the healthier the gun culture is, the less deadly it's going to be, and the actually the less restrictions they're going to have. Now, my theory on this one, and what I've always, well, based on my observations, my own personal observations of people, is that I've noticed that generally those in favor of more gun laws think the only reason why you'd buy a gun is to be a criminal or shoot up a school or something like that. They're very distrustful when they see another person with a gun. These people view it as a weapon of mass destruction, if I want to hyperbole as much as some of them do. But the most part, when you talk about people coming from a healthy gun culture, such as myself, obviously, I got grandpappies, I mean, I was born in the gun culture, and, a lot of my friends are gun owners. I own an estimated around 50 guns. I think actually a little bit more than 50 now, but who keeps count? Now, my grandpappies, before they passed on, owned a bunch of guns themselves, and they knew how to use them. They were good. They were excellent shots. In fact, one of my grandpappies, was able to shoot rabbits like you wouldn't believe. But again, that's I guess a little aside the point. The fact of the matter is that we didn't have any distrust of seeing other people with guns or knowing other people own guns. Hell, I mean, we own guns, they own guns. I'm going to buy my next AR-15 or my next pistol or my next shotgun or my next rifle in general. The last thing I'm thinking about is going out and engaging in criminal activity or say mowing down a bunch of school children or something like that. No, I'm into guns. I like guns. It's either going to be my next hunting rifle, my next sporting rifle. It could be my next personal protection pistol. It could be my next home defense shotgun or my next collector shotgun or my next hunting shotgun. I mean, who knows? It could be like my Desert Eagle, which is a complete novelty. Or my Colt Python, which, the Rolls Royce of revolvers, the Cadillac of revolvers. It's something that fascinates all of us. And we look and we know somebody else is a gun owner, an AR-15, say, hey, it's the most popular platform in America. We don't think anything of it other than the fact, oh, cool, dude, hey, what mate you get? What lower receiver did you get on here? Shoot, you get the drop-in trigger? Shoot, how'd you set? Oh, shoot, you got Neotech on that thing. Or, no, oh, shoot, you got an aim point on that thing. That sort of thing. That's what we're thinking about. We don't generally think anything of somebody just for owning a firearm. It's a tool. Yes, it can be used for evil. It can also be used to protect people, too. It can also be used as a great hobby, as a tool for a great hobby, anyway, I love shooting my AR-15, I know it's expensive. I love going out and popping off a few rounds with my Desert Eagle every now and then. I love target shooting at the range. I like hunting. Feral hog because it's just less rules around hunting feral hog than there is protected game. But at the end of the day, I mean, I don't see people who own guns as being anything bad. Uh, I know this because I'm obviously a gun owner. Now, on that note, I would think something was wrong with a person, not the fact that they wanted to own a gun, but something wrong with a person themselves if they wanted to own a gun to go shoot up a bunch of school children. I would think there's something wrong with a person, for wanting to be a drug dealer, and that's why they were getting the gun. I don't see anything wrong with somebody being an avid firearm enthusiast and wanting to own a machine gun. Again, I really love this map because it brings up an excellent point, and the possibilities that maybe these laws are in place simply because enough of the populace has an unhealthy view on firearms. And maybe that's why these restrictive laws are in place. All right? That just maybe they could garner enough political support, and who I mean by the people in favor of these laws, are able to garner enough political support simply because of this unhealthy view on firearms. Um, the fact they take advantage of the fact that there are some people that haven't yet figured out how to draw the line between, say, wanting to own a rifle like this, which is an AR-15, the most popular platform in America, and going out and wanting to slaughter a bunch of people. Now, they can't understand the fact that, well, shoot, I got this rifle specifically because it's an NFA Title I version. Well, the closest thing I can get to the rifle I carried in service and still stay NFA Title I. Didn't buy it with the mentality of going out and mowing down a bunch of school children. Sorry, guys. Didn't buy it with the mentality of getting into a life of crime or anything like that. Bought it because I like the rifle. It's a pleasurable rifle to shoot. It's a nice rifle. It's a good, reliable rifle. You know, makes for an excellent home defense rifle too. Again, that doesn't equate to something bad happening. That doesn't equate to gun violence. And on this topic, again, we have as many firearms as we do people in the U.S. From what I understand from the statistics I've been reading. So I think if we had a gun problem, our firearm-related deaths would be a hell of a lot higher. So, take for that what you will. But I think people just here in the U.S. bought guns just to go out and kill people or engage in a life of crime, be a lot more violent country than it is. But it's not. Alright, guys. I'm going to wrap this up here. You guys take it easy out there. Have a nice day.